What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. Today, we're going to be talking about a new system coming to Season 3. Now, we've talked about Mythic Plus in a number of videos, and in a lot of these videos, the biggest complaint that we have across the board, this is in the communities, this is in the really in any space you find a Mythic Plus, like whether it's competitive or casual, the issue is when people join group, they don't stay in group. The moment they see any sign of trouble, someone leaves. Now, there is, of course, extended cases where maybe that's not always what happens, but Blizzard has come up with a solution that may help you for those who are experiencing it, and that is right here. The leavers penalized with new deserter system coming in Season 3. So, Mythic leavers are one of the most frustrating things that can happen to your key if the rest of your group doesn't currently want to quit. Players have voiced their concerns on this topic across social media. Wow. Copying me. Blizzard has even taken some previous action on them. At the beginning of War Within, Blizzard added a deserter debuff for all players who leave any group finder early. Also banned excessive leavers in Season 1. I've talked about this, and I think that while these things do happen in sort of waves to like scare people, I don't think they're as prevalent or as tracked, or at least they weren't to a certain point. It's like, it's great to know that they did something, but at the same time, really, how many people got caught up by that? Like how many of like perpetual leavers got caught up in that? So in a recent interview with Blizzard, WoW had talked with Drew DeSosa and Taylor Saunders, who revealed they will be adding a new Mythic Plus deserter system in Season 3. So in this possible impact, if someone leaves the group before the vote, so there's going to be a vote system where basically they're going to put it forward if people are willing to end the key. It's like the surrender button on League, you know? So if people are willing to do it, then that's something else. But if they're not and someone leaves, this is what's going to happen. But these are the things like what might get caught up, so they ask the proper questions. So if someone leaves the group before the vote, can the rest of the players leave immediately, or will the remaining players need to vote still? Do disconnects count as leaving? What are the thresholds for someone being marked a leaver? Unlikely if Blizzard will ever say the exact number, since it'll lead to abuse. And then will players be able to abuse recovering from a mark by queuing and abandoning a dungeon instantly? So basically, the idea is that you will receive a mark if you've been marked as a leaver. And so any future queues that you join, you will have that on there until you complete a dungeon. So my guess is that just joining and leaving won't remove it. You'll have to like reach the end potentially. But then that raises a question to me, which is, what if the next queue, you get into it and you don't fully complete? So to me, maybe it should leave once you maybe like clear like first boss, maybe. That way it's like, all right, you're making progress. You know, if it fails, etc., then that maybe that's the dividing line in that. So the important thing here is that we're establishing these rules. Whether it's going to get released perfectly, you know, I mean, that's still up for debate, but let's talk a little bit more about what people are saying about this. Blue Post, and plus Dungeon Deserter to be implemented next patch. So dungeon checkpoints are evolving in the way of waystones as well to provide a more visual representation of checkpoints. Because you ever release Spirit and then you had to do like a super long walk, this ought to at least provide an idea of where you might be resurrected at. Players can now vote to abandon a Mythic Plus after it started. Anybody who saw my rookery bug like that I experienced earlier this season, it's pretty awful. So this might have been helpful for that. Players who leave runs before completion, timer end, or a successful vote to abandon will eventually be marked as a Keystone Deserter. Marked players can complete Mythic. So it's like, I wonder if people will always reach the edge and do that, or if one can count. Marked players can complete Mythic Plus runs without leaving if untimed to bring themselves back into standing and drop their rank. So marked players completed Mythic Plus runs without leaving, even if untimed. So basically, it seems like you have to get to the very end, but it doesn't matter if it's a timed run. So you can still be trashed in the game, so it's allowed. So what's in the Blue Post? Players can now vote to abandon Mythic Plus after a key is socketed. Players who leave before completion. I think it's a good change, probably. I already followed dungeon etiquette and put in chat, "We're done." And if other people agree that I leave, this is just Blizzard enforcing good dungeon etiquette. And push keys, the vote is always going to be to abandon. In low keys, I think it'll be more likely to continue. It's unclear what the threshold is to abandon the key. I think if 2 players want to abandon, then it should be abandoned. If the very most, it should be 3 to abandon, then to abandon the dungeon. I don't think people should be held hostage in a dungeon if they aren't having fun. So yeah, no, I kind of agree. I don't think a majority vote is necessarily the way it should be done, in that If it's 2 out of 5, that kills the key 100% of the time. 1 out of 5, like, of course, you know, you can have a toxic player. So I think more than 2 might be necessary, but 3 might be tough. Unintended consequence: if the vote threshold is too high, players will AFK in the dungeon until the timer expires, or other players agree to abandon via the vote. Anytime Blizzard tries to punish players, they will try harder not to be punished. It is the Asmongold take as well. I mean, I think these takes often are very short-sighted in that let's do nothing because doing something is or doing something will cause people to react poorly. It's a non-solution. Like it doesn't provide any actual solutions to the issue. It just goes like, hey, the status quo is less worse than changing it. So I don't ever agree with those kind of takes. How many players do you think should be the vote to abandon in order for a vote to pass? I don't know. Maybe allowing like a neutral vote, like a yes, no neutral, in the sense that if someone is neutral in a take, if it leans one way or another, they just go with that side. So it's kind of like, it's a tie-breaking vote, you know, where people are kind of like, this is still going to get abused. I think it'll still allow you to participate in the dungeon finder with a deserter mark that may suggest the leader that applying deserter last few whatever runs they were in, because the words in the post suggest the mark will be removed if you complete an M+ afterwards. There needs to be a system that players can also report a griefer, report abuse, intentionally sabotaging Mythic's Keystone run. Yeah, so I think there's contingencies to plan for, in the sense that if you are putting up a vote, that a report system should and may need to be involved. People have been against that historically, because usually they're bad actors and they just want to get away with being like shitty people to somebody else, you know, like that's really all it is. But just thinking on the better side of people, or like how people act in dungeons, I think that there's bound to be some people who go, well, this person did the dungeon but they didn't do well, so I'm going to report them. So I think if there's a report system, it has to be basically, if it includes any sort of negativity against a player, it's going to be abused. But if it's only positives, then you can sort of have a karma system, but have it only to be like how much positive karma you have, you know, like whether you're joining a groups for someone who's in a realm that you don't normally pick, but then you see like oh wow, they have a good rating for someone in that realm. Y'all know the certain realms that you don't invite. you know who you are, and it's usually Illidan. So if you are petty enough to do this, it will happen. You deserve to be punished. I don't know. I pug several characters at 2,500, literally hundreds of every season. I don't see enough early leavers for this to be worthwhile. Yeah, I would say for the most part, what it is, it's a tank who's the early leaver. It's very rarely, if ever, a DPS. In the case, in my experience, just because what happens is tank pulls like crap, over pulls, or is under pulling, or doesn't know how to do a fight, and by the second wipe, they're done. So in my experience, it's not really the DPS. I have seen it when I was tank, where it was healer as well, because a healer was just not able to keep up, and then couldn't take the heat whenever DPS are like, hey, you're not really keeping up very well. So usually it's those main roles in my experience. So I would hate to see one side picked more often, but we'll see. Welcome to Men Plus Hostage Edition. If you get tagged with deserter, just run your own key. I really never have a problem with leavers, and did 2.5k and 3 characters, but this is exactly what people wanted, so I'm expecting everyone to hate the system now. Yeah, honestly, I think that who this affects the most is people, I think, overestimating how many people will just tank a key. For the most part, it's like a mutually beneficial thing. It's like wasting 20 minutes versus just going through it and seeing if you can. So I don't think it's that deep. I think people thinking that there's like this deep network that's going to basically abuse deserting keys or abuse the voting system is just silly to me. And I think that there's too minimally amount of a number of deserter cases to be like, oh yeah, this is going to happen every single time. I'm gonna be honest, this isn't even an issue in M+. I don't know why this is needed. There's a wipe, everyone leaves, end of story. Why does it have to be so complicated? Okay, so you add a vote to it. so you make sure that it's not just somebody leaves and then everyone else goes, well, I guess we got to go. It's just adding an extra step. And I think that's why people are so upset about it. You're the reason why we're implementing this. Too many people have a quitter mentality. Even mid keys are easily salvageable. Yeah, no, I think what this does is it provides more understanding about keys that are salvageable. I've had Cinderbrew keys where the first room pulls like fail, like bad, fail bad. You know, like whenever you fail, like whenever you die, you respawn, and then they die again because the tank didn't respawn, and so like more people die, and it went fine. So it's like it really is. It's not as intense as people are saying all the time. I think it's kind of like overestimating it. Feel a great disturbance, as if millions of speedrunners cried out in terror when they were silenced with the Keystone Deserter debuff. I totally expect to see speedrunners whinge on Reddit after this gets implemented. Expect to see, I did nothing wrong. They deserted a brick key. They deserved a brick key. They refused to skip a group of ads. They weren't giga pulling 30 ads, or my personal favorite. I tried to AFK to avoid a penalty, but was reported for griefing instead, and now I'm suspended. Yeah, I mean, I would expect, I mean, if Blizzard's doing this, honestly, what they need to do is expect that the first like little bit of this being a thing is to be ready for a lot of tickets. So they better give their like customer service team, you know, like wake them up, because I think they're sleeping at the time right now. So let's look at the other one. This one says, can't wait for the vote to abandon or I troll. Typing that in chat will be a bold move. Yeah, just don't type anything. Yeah, so people who leave will just, they won't type anything. So anybody who joins your key, if they don't say hello, I say howdy. If someone doesn't say hello, you don't invite them, because they're avoiding a report. I like the idea of it, but I'm interested in seeing how they deal with people who abuse the system, specifically how you will deal with people who want to leave but don't want to mark, and after the vote leave fails, just refusing to play and forcing the rest of the group to vote again anyways, or four-man the key, or being forced to play the abysmal players they don't want to vote yes. I will say there's a number of people, I mean, it's the same thing with League, who absolutely hate when you vote to surrender, they select no. But honestly, I'm in the mindset of like, you don't learn from just giving up. You're waiting for the roulette of better players. And I think the mentality that people complain about with there being leavers simultaneously with the mentality of nobody wants to try anything, no one wants to give anything a second shot, is because you allow these things to persist in the game. The amount of times that in Classic you learn on the job, or like in prior expansions where you would kind of learn as a group, kind of sort of got whittled away as Mythic Plus became a thing. And so this is something that I think, if you look on the silver lining of things, like outside of what avoiding having leavers leave, right, does is it gives people a better idea of how much a key is possibly salvageable within reason. You know, like, I mean, of course, I mean, like, some people will want to stay along too long for a key that's not salvageable. But for the most part, everyone wants to complete a key and doesn't want to have a failed key. Like this mentality that casual players don't know what a failed key means is everyone knows that you don't get the rewards, you don't get the numbers, you don't get the Raider IO score from a failed key. So it's like really all this is affecting is people who go, well, this isn't going to be the team that's going to take me to be a positive run for my particular Mythic Plus rating, which is kind of like, it's like, it is what it is. But to me, you can easily offset that by going, hey, we're realizing that a lot of people are now completing more keys due to this. But the people who really have those high, like those resilient keys, they really want to feel rewarded. Otherwise, they're just less likely to join. They've stopped joining as much because they don't want to waste their time. So what can we do for people who complete a key but don't improve their time? Well, maybe we can make it to where within a certain amount of range you still get positive score if you've done it a certain amount of times. Not saying that's a solution. Immediately people will jump on me and be like, no, that's awful. I'm just saying something as a consolation of going like, hey, you've completed these keys, maybe not to improve your score, but you've completed a number of these keys at this rating, so let's kind of give you the plus maybe that you're looking for as a different system of abuse. Or maybe there's just loot. Okay, maybe just loot to make sure you pay for their repair bills a little bit more effectively. I don't know, but all I'm saying is there ought to be a system, or we can discover systems that could work to reward players these high level players that I'm sure are the complainers of this and go like, hey, there's something in it for you for sticking around. I think that's an easy enough solution, or an easy enough path to go, hey, this vote system put a lot of people who are on the higher end of skill in a bad sort of ways, but we're going to do something now to improve that system as time goes on. If we're going to be reasonable and go, hey, some of these patches have been overtuned and awful, like let's work with a system that could make these things better for the future. It's thinking long term. Yes, it may not be perfect when it releases, but I think overall this could be a really positive thing. So I'm not fully ready to just go ahead and just be like, all right, it's all bad. So even if they talk about, even if they thought about the scenario, I can see people abusing it the other way around. If there would be a possibility to kick or mark such a player, a 4-man pre-made would abuse that against the players they were not happy about. So it's a really tough topic. I mean, how many 4-man pre-mades? I mean, why not just a 5-person group and then they all agree on things? I think this really discourages those rare occurrences where you're at the last boss with 2 minutes left and someone would normally leave. No, I wouldn't say that affects this. I would say this is more of like you're on first boss, second boss, and you've had a first, maybe second wipe. That's usually where it is. It's usually the early, like the people who are the leavers, it's like right in the first half of the dungeon, within the first 10 minutes. Because when you're at the last like 5-10 minutes of the key, people are more willing to stick around to see if like it turns out. Characters or account going to get flagged. And this is going to be a work to a new toxic level. I've heard that it's going to be a account in some places, but I'm not 100% certain. I personally think it should be account. I think that if you're a leaver and you're joining for another group and you're possibly going to leave another group, then you should be in that situation too. F them. Honestly, I really have, I get people's hesitance towards something this, but to me, I have no sympathy. I really don't have any sympathy. Either you have time for a key or you don't. And if it's a waste of your time, if you consider a waste of your time to fail a key, get better at running your own keys. Get better at joining proper groups. You know, when you see like, hey, like this group is not going to work based off of I know that this comp is going to work, or I know this person's rating must mean that they must not be good at the game. Then get better at picking your groups, or be more social. Like and find guilds that do this. But like I really have zero sympathy for the people who go like, oh, woe is me. So I mean, like, so this is gonna make my life harder. So let's not improve the game for everybody else. Only I matter in this situation. That's ridiculous. Good people should do that. Should have been punished long ago. This should be interesting. I for one will be glad for this change. So I'm forced to carry much underperforming or AFK players. No, just stop joining keys. So like haphazardly, I guess, you know, or get friends. This is good as long as they make it right. And I have doubts about that. That's probably true. This is the most cancer ever. I hope this doesn't bring a new form of griefing by kicking the player or purposely not voting to mark the victim. Okay. So what happens when you get 5 minutes into a dungeon and DPS are doing less damage than the tank and they don't want to abandon you? Literally held hostage with barn liquors. What's that mean? Good players, high keys, just change GG, NT, and go again. I love the fully automated fixed system that no way could be abused. As long as the simple majority of vote, I think it is bad. Though I hope if it's 2 to 3 quit, there's not really a punishment. Sometimes you're in groups with 3 players, often a guild group or something, and they're just playing awful. The other random and myself recognize this and engage the vote, I don't think we should be held hostage. If this only accounts for leaving actively people will just mess around and stack up some unnecessary repair costs. There's a clear difference between leaving and being removed, and even if the reasons aren't always the same. After my popcorn is ready for the comments from angry people who think this is specifically designed for someone, since people who often quit can get mad at this. Yeah, I think only quitters would get mad at this. Like in a situation, I think it's like it's telling. It's literally like if you're mad at this, you're projecting. If you get mad at this, you're projecting. Because any normal like civil person go like, hey, this key's not really working out. Let's call it quits. So to be honest, I don't see it, like, so clearly what needs to be tuned will just be how often it's done. and utilized. And from there, it's just like haters gonna hate, I guess. Hard to disagree. Why would I stand a key I gain no benefit from? For example, trying to time of plus 14. It's obvious for not timing the key. Why punish me with a lever penalty? Force me to stay in a key. Easy enough. Communicate. Communicate. Easy enough for that. It's like, what? Like, in prior dungeons, like, you would simply go like, hey, like, I don't think we're getting past this one. And then you just stop right there. Just communicate. It's not a big deal. I'm not here to help casuals. I'm here to get tasks done. Yeah, but in order to do those tasks, you have to communicate with other players and also cooperate. Like, it's ridiculous because I feel like the solo mentality has bled into Mythic Plus, where people think Mythic Plus is a solo game. Like, it really isn't. Oh, cool. Now I'll be hostaged in keys. Sick. It really is such a baby like mentality. One step closer to an N+ queue for moms and dads with 7 kids and 3 jobs. We're already there. What are we talking about? Unless your entire group is underperforming or AFK, you should be able to vote to abandon the key. So it's like, okay, so say 3 of those members go like, we're going to stick it through. You 2 who are voting to go against it, we don't agree. Now, one of 2 things have to happen. You have to communicate with people so they have a better shot at still winning it. Or if you all know it's abandoned and it's all lost, you complete the key as quickly as you can. At worst, it's 10 minutes of your life. Move on. Move on. It's such a baby mentality. Like, you have to do so little in your N+. The rest is ego. It really is. There's not a lot that you have to do. And hey, to me, this is proper time gating. This is proper time gating. Why people speed running to get their IO and then they never care about it again. Like let's pace it to where we have people kind of moving at the same pace. It's a ridiculous mentality. I don't know. Hate me for my opinion or whatever. Like, I don't really care. But honestly, like, the amount of people whinging and just talking about like, just, oh, this is going to be an overall negative. Yeah, I could see how there could be abuse in it, but like people act like it's already been a thing. Like, it's like, or that it already isn't being abused. So like, oh man, I have to wear a seatbelt when I drive. I can't believe this law has been now it's stricter to where if I don't get it, I get a bigger fine. Okay, like it's just a weird mentality to have, because it's like it's already been a bad thing. You're already leaving essentially, like, possibly with no punishment unless you get reported. So we're just putting those people in the situation where they can get possibly a punishment of some sort. Like, it just. Yeah, it's literally the people who are the worst actors complaining about this. But I don't know. I've soapboxed for long enough. Let me know in the comments. What do you think is going to be the result from this? What do you think is going to be the good side of this as far as what could happen long term with something like this? Think down the road for me if you can. And then additionally, for those of you who go, well, this is okay, but it needs to be tuned in this way. What do you think are the ways to kind of solve those things, solve the abuse, solve the ways that can be figured out? Let me know in the comments, because I love to share these things and talk about some of these things in a grander sense to kind of make these things more well known. Like, if I can at all share these things back to the devs in some sort of way, then I hope my reach can at least do that. So I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, give it a like. But as per always, catch you on the next one. Peace.